For centuries, Earth had projected an image of peace, a world without war, its people content to live under the stars, unbothered by the vast conflicts that engulfed the galaxy. Cities flourished under skies that had not seen battle in generations, and to the untrained eye, it seemed humanity had transcended its violent past. This was a carefully cultivated lie. High above Earth, in the safety of an imperial warship, an alien diplomat named Zorvax stood before the vast window of the command deck. His gaze swept over the blue-green planet, a flicker of disdain in his cold, crimson eyes. To Zorvax, Earth was nothing more than a backwater planet inhabited by a soft, complacent species, weaklings who had forgotten the meaning of war. His assignment, given to him by the Drathack Empire's ruling council, was simple: assess Earth's defenses and prepare the way for a swift conquest. Peaceful, he muttered to himself, the word heavy with scorn. They've grown fat on their tranquility. Behind him, the bridge hummed with the activity of his subordinates, tall, sleek Drathaki officers, their black and silver uniforms immaculately pressed, their eyes fixed on their control panels. They, too, shared Zorvax's confidence. The Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, each one falling easily to their superior military power. What was one more? As Zorvax made his way to the center of the bridge, his thoughts returned to the Council's historical records. There had been stories, legends really, of a time when humans had once waged brutal wars, not just against each other, but across the stars. Entire star systems had been brought to ruin by human war fleets, their strategic brilliance unmatched. But that had been thousands of years ago. Now, there was nothing but a peaceful, isolated Earth, quietly avoiding conflict. He activated a holographic display, pulling up Earth's planetary defenses. His pale fingers danced across the controls, bringing up reports, surveillance footage, and intelligence. What he saw amused him. Primitive, unprepared, the hologram flickered to life, projecting Earth's orbital satellites, defense systems, and military assets. It all seemed so outdated. The Drathack Empire's ships could dismantle it with minimal effort. Zorvax smirked, his sharp teeth flashing in the dim light. This would be easier than he thought. Prepare the fleet for invasion. He ordered in his native tongue, a harsh, guttural language that echoed through the command deck. His officers nodded, moving swiftly to execute his commands. Zorvax leaned back, confident in his assessment. The humans had grown weak under the illusion of peace. When his fleet arrived, they would surrender without a fight, too terrified by the Empire's might to even consider resistance. But Zorvax had underestimated them, greatly. Far below on Earth, within a heavily fortified underground bunker, Earth's military council had gathered. The dim room was filled with tension, the air thick with unspoken readiness. A holographic map of the solar system hovered over the table in the center of the room. Red markers indicated the incoming Drathack fleet, growing closer with each passing hour. General Paul Watson, a tall, broad-shouldered man with graying hair and a steely expression, stood at the head of the table. His sharp blue eyes scanned the map as he spoke, his voice calm but commanding. It seems our visitors are finally making their move. The other generals and strategists around the table exchanged glances. There was no panic, no fear, only the cold calculation of men who had prepared for this moment their entire lives. They think we're weak, Watson continued, a wry smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. They've been watching us for years, and all they've seen is peace. That's what they wanted to see. A younger officer, Commander Drake, spoke up. Their fleet is massive, sir, and from the intelligence we've gathered, their technology is far more advanced than what they believe we possess. Let them think that, Watson replied. The Drathack Empire isn't the first to believe we've grown soft, and they won't be the last. Silence fell over the room as Watson looked around the table, locking eyes with each man. Activate the reserves, he said, his voice firm. It's time. Deep beneath Earth's surface, ancient bunkers and vaults that had lain dormant for centuries began to stir. Vast underground chambers, once sealed by leaders who had sworn never to awaken them, slowly opened. Inside were the remnants of humanity's forgotten war machine, massive weapons, advanced warships, and technologies long thought obsolete. Above ground, Earth's population continued their lives, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to break. Only a few key officials knew the full extent of the Empire's plans, and even fewer understood the true power hidden beneath their feet. Back on the Drathack warship, Zorvax received his latest reports with a self-satisfied nod. Everything was proceeding as expected. His fleet would enter Earth's orbit within hours, and he would send his formal demand for surrender. It would be swift. It would be decisive. The humans wouldn't even try to fight back. He allowed himself a brief moment of pride. Conquering Earth would elevate him in the eyes of the Council. The human submission would be a triumph for the Drathack Empire, and Zorvax would be the one who made it happen. But as he stood there, confident in his victory, deep within Earth's hidden chambers, the gears of war were already turning. The generals of Earth had never forgotten their heritage. Humanity's peaceful surface was just that, a surface, beneath which lay the heart of a warrior species, waiting for the moment to awaken. And that moment had come. As the Drathack fleet sliced through the silent vacuum of space, its sleek, dark ships glided toward Earth with grim purpose. They expected an easy victory, an unchallenged conquest of a peaceful, technologically inferior world. But they had miscalculated. Deep below Earth's surface, ancient machines were awakening, and with them, a force the galaxy had long forgotten. General Paul Watson stood in the dimly lit war room, his sharp eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the approaching Drathack fleet. Around him, the hum of encrypted communication channels and the quiet shuffle of officers at their stations filled the bunker. The underground base was a relic of Earth's bygone wars, hidden away beneath layers of reinforced rock, undetected by alien sensors. "How long until they reach us?" Watson asked, his voice calm but commanding. 3 hours, sir," replied Commander Drake, who had been working closely with the intelligence team monitoring the fleet's progress. His young face betrayed none of the tension building beneath the surface. Like Watson, he had been trained for this day, a day humanity had been preparing for in silence, waiting for the moment when their ancient power would be needed again. Watson nodded, his mind already turning over the next steps in the plan. "They'll learn soon enough that our peace was a choice, not a weakness." He stepped forward, activating the control panel embedded in the table before him. A series of encrypted commands lit up the holographic map, triggering protocols long kept dormant. All across the globe, hidden facilities, bunkers buried deep within mountains, beneath the ocean floor, and even within seemingly abandoned cities, sprang to life. Massive vault doors, rusted with age, slowly creaked open as forgotten arsenals were brought into the light once more. Deep within these vaults lay war machines designed for battles that never came. Battle tanks, sleek fighter jets, orbital defense platforms, and hulking mechanical exosuits, all built with technology so advanced that they had been locked away to ensure no one could misuse them. The air in the underground facilities, filled with the low hum of reactors powering up. Automated systems, dormant for generations, flickered to life as robots and drones began restoring long silent engines, dusting off old blueprints, and readying weapons that hadn't been used in millennia. Watson watched the progress on the display. The image zoomed in on several key sites around the world, showing the gradual reactivation of the Earth Defense Network, an intricate system of weaponized satellites, ground-based ion cannons, and long-range missile silos. This was humanity's forgotten strength, hidden away while the galaxy grew complacent. "These aren't relics," Commander Drake remarked as he observed the massive war machines. "They're still more advanced than anything those Drathack can bring to bear." Watson glanced at him, a faint smile on his face. "We've been planning this for centuries. Our ancestors knew the galaxy would eventually come for us. They were never going to let humanity stand defenseless." As Watson and Drake oversaw the final preparations, a transmission crackled through the bunker's encrypted comms. The Drathack commander had sent an ultimatum. Zorvax's arrogant voice filled the room. People of Earth, you have lived under the delusion of peace for too long. The Drathack Empire offers you a chance to surrender. Submit to our rule, and you will be spared. Resist, and we will show no mercy. Watson didn't flinch. His face remained impassive as he listened to the alien's words, waiting for the message to end. When it did, he turned to the communications officer. No response. Let them keep thinking we're afraid. The officer nodded, and silence resumed. There was no need for words. The humans had chosen their path long ago, and now they would follow it through. In the hours that followed, Earth's hidden armies mobilized. Across every continent, once secret facilities burst into action, and elite soldiers suited up in state-of-the-art combat gear. These were men trained for war despite the peace that surrounded them, descendants of a warrior culture that had laid dormant for centuries but had never truly vanished. As the final preparations were made, General Watson addressed his officers one last time before the battle. We are not the humans these aliens think we are. They look at our cities, our people, and they see weakness. But what they don't understand is that we've been waiting for them to make the first move. His words resonated through the room. The officers straightened, their faces set with resolve. This was not just a defense of Earth. This was a statement to the galaxy, a reminder of who humanity truly was. The countdown to the Drathack fleet's arrival continued as Watson and his command team moved to the operations center, ready to oversee the battle. In the distance, beyond the thick walls of the bunker, massive warships, sleek, black, and bristling with weapons, rose from underground hangars. The Earth Defense Network was coming online, its systems aligning for the first time in centuries. The satellites, armed with kinetic bombardment weapons, aimed toward the sky. Commander Drake joined Watson at the central console. All systems are online, sir. The defense network is fully operational. Watson's gaze remained steady on the holographic map, where the Drathack fleet was now closing in on Earth's atmosphere. Good, he said quietly. Let them come. Above the planet, the first Drathack ships breached the atmosphere, their hulking forms blotting out the stars. Zorvax watched from the command deck of his flagship, certain of his impending victory. But as his fleet descended, a strange phenomenon began to unfold. Dozens of Earth's defense satellites powered up, firing a barrage of energy beams and precision-guided missiles at the invading fleet. Zorvax's confidence faltered for the first time. What is this? He demanded, his eyes widening as explosions ripped through his outer ships. He hadn't expected resistance like this, certainly not from a species he had dismissed as obsolete. Humanity's war machine had awakened. The moment the first Drathack ship exploded in orbit, the myth of Earth's weakness shattered. On board his flagship, Zorvax watched in stunned disbelief as the initial wave of Earth's defense systems activated, unleashing a devastating assault. Massive energy beams arced across the void, slamming into his fleet with pinpoint precision. The hulls of his ships, which he had once considered impervious, crumbled under the barrage. His one certain expression of superiority twisted into one of horror. Impossible, he whispered, his voice barely audible amid the alarms blaring throughout the command deck. His officers scrambled in panic, trying to make sense of the sudden and overwhelming retaliation. Shields at critical levels, one shouted. We're losing ships, 5 destroyers already down. Zorvax gritted his teeth, his hands gripping the edge of the command console, so tightly his knuckles turned white. How? They were supposed to be defenseless. His mind raced, trying to reconcile the catastrophic losses with the intelligence he had so confidently delivered to his council. Earth was supposed to be weak, but this was anything but. Far below, Earth's military leaders watched the scene unfold on their holographic displays, their expressions as cold and calculating as ever. General Paul Watson stood at the center of the operations room, hands clasped behind his back, his gaze fixed on the burning remnants of the Drathack ships above. Focus fire on their command ship, he ordered. His voice was calm, a stark contrast to the chaos erupting above Earth's atmosphere. I want their leader to know exactly what's happening before we finish them. The orders rippled through Earth's command channels with seamless precision. Orbital defense platforms adjusted their targeting algorithms, locking onto the largest of the Drat ships. Moments later, a coordinated strike was launched, a hail of missiles, energy pulses, and kinetic rounds, each aimed directly at Zorvax's flagship. In space, the flagship trembled violently under the onslaught. Zorvax's officers struggled to maintain control, but the ship's systems were failing one by one. Fires broke out along the bridge, and several consoles sparked violently before going dark. "We can't hold," one of his senior officers shouted. "Our defenses are collapsing." Zorvax, now drenched in sweat, slammed his fist onto the command console. "Retreat! Pull the fleet back!" But it was too late. The flagship's engines sputtered as critical systems failed. The hull groaned under the pressure of repeated strikes, and finally, with a deafening roar, the ship's core detonated. Zorvax barely had time to register his defeat before the command deck was consumed in flame. From the surface of Earth, the explosion was visible as a bright flash in the night sky. For a brief moment, the stars seemed to flicker as the flagships remained scattered into the void. General Watson watched in silence, his expression unreadable. Commander Drake stood at his side, arms folded across his chest. "That's one way to deliver a message." Watson nodded slowly. "But we're not done yet." Despite the destruction of their flagship, the remaining Drat ships continued to press forward, though with far less coordination. Leaderless and reeling from the unexpected assault, their formations were chaotic. Earth's military took full advantage. Human warships, newly mobilized and bristling with long-hidden weaponry, ascended from underground bunkers and took to the skies. These ships, sleek and angular, were remnants of an ancient era when humanity had been a conquering force in the galaxy. Now, they soared once more, their engines glowing as they cut through space with deadly precision. Earth's forces didn't just meet the Drat head-on. They outmaneuvered them at every turn. The humans fought with a ruthless efficiency, employing tactics so old and obscure that no modern alien species could anticipate them. What the Drat had assumed would be a slaughter of a defenseless world had turned into their worst nightmare. A fight they could not win. One by one, the Drat ships fell, unable to keep pace with humanity's war-honed strategies. Each time a human warship fired, another Drat vessel crumbled, its hull ripped apart by weapons they had no defense against. Fear rippled through the remaining alien forces, and panic set in as entire crews began to abandon their posts, desperate to escape the fate that awaited them. In orbit, the final Drat battleship turned and fled, its engines flaring brightly as it attempted to break away from the battle. But it did not get far. Earth's defense satellites locked onto the retreating ship, and within seconds, it was obliterated by a volley of precision strikes. On the ground, the war room erupted in quiet acknowledgement. Earth had won. General Watson exhaled slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing. He glanced at the holographic map one last time, confirming that the Drat forces had been completely eradicated. The room was filled with the low murmurs of officers exchanging updates, but Watson remained focused. There was no celebration. This was only the beginning. "They'll send more," Drake said, standing beside him. Watson nodded. "They will. And next time, they'll come prepared." Drake's expression hardened. "So will we." Watson turned to face the room, his voice carrying across the bunker. "Today, we've reminded the galaxy who we are. For too long, they've forgotten the truth about humanity. But now they'll know. We are not a species of peace. We are conquerors, warriors, war gods. Let them come again. They'll find us ready." Above them, the skies were clear. The Drat invasion had been annihilated, but Watson knew the galaxy would not remain quiet for long. The truth about Earth's true nature had been revealed, and the galaxy was watching.